Pride Month, LGBT. I got Jaylene
Hey.
and uh, here to talk about, well, Pride in general, like everything Pride, rainbows, colors, everything. So I guess we'll get it started. I'm pretty sure, like normally, is like most most discussions I'll have like just questions of just things, and I didn't want to be that. I want to just have like a just conversation about stuff, um, because we get these questions that are just really off, and you're just kind of like, I'm a human being kind of thing.
Exactly.
So, has you, speaking of what, have you had some really weird questions before?
Um, Besides, the normal, like, how do lesbians, like, have sex and stuff like that, they just assume, like, all the time, like, if I'm a top or a bottom because the way I dress, depending. I think it's, especially for me, they just, like, assume, like, the way I dress. Right now, obviously, I'm, like, wearing black attire, but 8 out of 10 of the times, they assume I'm straight. Unless I tell them or dress differently.
Yeah, I feel the same. I get the same kind of thing where just like they think I'm, till it's like, no, this
But
is
yeah.
this is my boyfriend. I'm as I mean I am bi, but like it's still, it confuses. I feel it confuses them further
Yeah.
saying that. You know, and they ask questions like about sex. And I'm just like, listen, I don't ask about your sex life.
Exactly.
So,
It's true. It's like, come on.
it's like if you're into you know whatever you're into, whether it be some sort of like furry fetish
Yeah.
or like the president, P tapes or whatever. It's what you're into. It's not my business. It's
hmm
not. It's not your business. You
Or,
know.
or like the common one is like, who's the guy in the relationship or who the girl? It's like, come on.
Come
It's
on.
not, if I'm dating a girl, it's a girl.
Yeah,
Don't ask.
that's
It,
simple.
it
Yeah,
doesn't make sense.
we're humans, just
Exactly.
like that. So.
I agree.
Oh, is has there now I could I could, I've had uh, the next thing I'm gonna talk about is like eight bad experiences. I'm gonna follow up with positive ones because
Mhm.
I want the positives to overshadow
Yeah.
the bad, of course. But I'll start off by giving an example. I Those questions are bad enough, but they're more of annoyance, like a fly.
hmm
I've had I have forgot this one time I forgot my bag in the break room,
hmm
and there was just full of people. And this guy, I came in there with thinking it was all right. You know, I brought my boyfriend with me, and he ends up there's this guy in there. He just makes it. He sees us holding hands, and he goes. Basically, he knows because I've told people what I am. I'm bisexual, and he goes, he's like, hey Chris, you know, bisexuals are only rapists. They're straight men that fuck gay men,
That's so stupid.
and everybody laughed. It,
Wow.
it was humiliating, and this is at work. You know,
With all your coworkers
all
and
my coworkers, and I would have to come back into work with them again, and knowing that, and I mean, I did. I put up a face and all that, but I just like because I know I'm better than them,
exactly.
and it's just like, but I know that there are people out there in our situation
hmm
wouldn't be able to handle shit like that. Have you had instances like that?
Not as deep as that, but I've been like growing up, me being the only girl, middle child. I've had instances where if I would come out to an older generation, or even to some people who are like older than me, or even like some younger people like me who just like I've met for the first time, they'll probably say like side comments like, "Oh my God, you're so pretty to be gay," or like, "Oh, you're gay, you're just so pretty," or actually not a year ago, I was going to Pride, and I was passing by Boone High School, and this man was remodeling his house, and I had the Pride on my pants,
Hmm.
like the pride flag on my pants. And of course, I understood what he was saying because it was in Spanish, and I'm Puerto Rican.
Hmm.
And so he was like, "What a waste." And I'm like, "Damn, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, bear children, and that's my life?" Like, I've gotten that comment many times because of the way I dress, and like some people are just like, "Really, you don't look gay, or you don't act gay, or you just the way you speak," and like those obviously people who know me like personally know that probably the gayest person they've met, and then those who obviously don't know me on that level be like, "Oh, you don't look gay," or whatever. But yeah, I think the most hurtful comment I've ever gotten was being told that I'm a waste, or it's a waste to be who I am as an individual, me being a lesbian. So yeah.
Well, I don't know if you're with someone already,
No,
or,
no.
but you
Single.
someday,
Yeah.
you'll get to show that old man.
Yeah. And like obviously it's hindering because when you're growing up, I don't know if you've been told you're not like obviously you being bisexual, you've been told like, "Oh, you got to man up," or like I've always been told like I got to be more of a girl growing up because as a child I was always so sporty. I was very outgoing. I had like certain situations where, as a child, I was told not to play with the boys because it would be not girly enough, or, for whatever reason.
That actually brings up my next thing as a positive is I haven't had my I guess my family just with never told me to
Hmm.
be like you need to be more of a man, or
Hmm.
despite you would think so considering military and
Yeah.
stuff. It was it could be who they are, but I think it's more just like it just kind of spelled it out to me
Hmm.
when I actually came out. And this brings up the whole opposite, the pros. That's one of the biggest things, and it seems small. This this may seem, I imagine this may seem small to people, but to me it was quite the biggest thing. It was huge to me. I was terrified of coming out, and I
Oh.
remember going to my sister, being afraid, and she's like, "Oh, let's go tell him." I'm like, she was just really cool about it. Like, she was just like, "No, let's go tell the rest of the family. You sure you want to go tell the rest of the family?" Like, she's really cool. Like, really, like, yeah. It was like, and I'm just like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And we just go over there. We just go further. They're just like, cool,
Yeah.
okay, sure, yeah. Like, and they, they, it was one of the. I was so afraid that I would already I complicate. I already had I already have a rough time sometimes with you know talking with my parents, and I was afraid that this would you know complicate things.
Even more.
Yeah, and it didn't. They were really cool. Um, and what's even further, more recently, I'm having complications with a friend. I'm not going to get into that. I don't want to, obviously. But my dad has been there on the phone, listening to me whine and moan. you know? It's like my heart is just and I don't know what to do with that. It's just like it is something that I never would have back then. I would never have thought happening, and having that support is from my, it's just, words can't, I can't put into words how much it is, how,
Mhm.
because how terrifying it was just to think that I could, you know, separate
Yeah.
myself from them, and it ended up, they were just, it was like a, it was like talking to him like, you know, I could just do it, and he's just cool, just, did he have all the, does he have all the right answers? Of course he doesn't, but
Mhm.
like he gives his best options. Actually, it's like his his answers were very good. His answers were, it's more like he thought through it. He could think through it. He's like, this is, yeah, it's understandable. Emotions work like this. Da, da, da. Or the point is it was very. That was like probably one of my best pro
That's pro. That's good.
from, yeah, interacting with people. It's just because of how reassuring it was.
That's good.
Have you?
I would say my coming out story has been a bumpy ride ever since, at a young age, I knew I liked girls. And, my biggest thing growing up was obviously me acknowledging it, like, oh, whoa, this is what I like now, And in middle school, it was very, like, it was a tough time, only because obviously a lot of people, and, like, I've seen multiple coming out stories, but, like, a lot of people, when they found out that they're gay, that they don't, like the idea, because who wants to be somebody that majority of the people don't like? You're gonna get hate for it. You're gonna get crap for it. Not everybody's gonna like you. So like middle school was probably the most troubling time of who I was. I was dating multiple people, like multiple guys, and I was just like break up with them, and it didn't mean anything to me because obviously it was a fighting battle. It was a fighting battle within myself, and I was just like, as soon as high school started, I was like, nope, it's it. I'm who I am. And I remember the first teacher I came out was, his name was Mr. Cox. He was my learning teacher. He was a basketball teacher at the time. But he literally, I remember he was like, is there something you guys want to, is there a goal, right? Is there a goal that you have pending to like do? And I'm like, well, you know, October is coming soon, and I wanted to like, I don't know, you know, I know it was beginning of the school year and October was coming soon. For whatever reason, I set a date in October. I wanted to at least try to come out to my parents, right? That was like my goal. And in the process of writing that, I didn't realize that I had just came out to my teacher. So I'm reading this and I'm showing him. I'm like, oh, I guess I just came out to you. And then he was like, you know what? You got it, Jaylene.
I mean, with someone with the name Cox.
I know. But it was kind of reassuring that, it was my first teacher that I came out to. Freshman year, I was like, whoa, I'm actually doing it step by step. And obviously, I grew. I think what was easy for me at a young age, I had to have a thick skin for myself. Because if I was proud enough to tell myself, I didn't care who I was going to tell with. Obviously, the terms of being who I was, I had to be cautious of who I was going to tell because I was going to get negativity back, especially from like females. That's why I didn't have a lot of female friends growing up because then would it be like, oh, do you like me now? Or like all those times we were hanging out, do you like me? And I'm like, no. I just like, obviously you're pretty and like whatever, but it wasn't, I did have to be selective on who I was telling with. But it wasn't until like, junior and senior year where I was really comfortable telling people, especially within my peers. And even my senior year, I came out to one of my, I guess you can say I was in JROTC. So I came out to my instructors, and these guys have seen me grow since I was a freshman. So to be able to tell them, it was like a bittersweet moment. And then, as far as that with peers and like people outdoor with my family, it was just a whole different ball game. Of course, I thought, the first person I told that I was bisexual, it was more of a cover up back then for me. But I told my grandma and my aunt, and they were okay with it. This was like in my middle school years, but when I came out in high school, I didn't come out. I was thrown out of the closet. Sort of say I never had like a welcoming, like
Get out of there.
exactly, like get out. So my parents find out by one of my. It's funny how it happened. One of the last guys that I ended up dating in middle school was 8th grade. That was the last dude. His name is Kevin. So I came out, was thrown out in freshman year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and by the way, this was all in the happenings. You know, I told my teacher that I was gay, and within October, believe it or not, that's when I was thrown out. So whether I had the initiative of coming out, either way it was going to happen. So I remember my parents.
That must have been daunting as hell.
Yes, it was nerve-wracking. At the time, I was talking to a girl, and my parents had found out. But the reason how they found out was because the guy that I last dated,
Mm-hmm.
Kevin, me and him became best friends.
Oh wait, no, his name was Kelvin.
No, this is another dude.
Thank God. Thank God.
This is another dude.
Oh my God.
This is another dude, but but Kevin, we dated, and he was the last guy I dated, and we became best friends. And needless to say, he came out to me too.
Oh.
I know, right? It was like, oh, you're gay, I'm gay, woo! Like, it was the cutest thing, and we became best friends for freshman year, until his mother was going through his phone, and next thing you know, she invited my mother and my father to go eat for a little lunch. And she showed them the text messages, and obviously I was talking about a female. I was talking.
Oh.
Yeah, I was talking. I know, right?
Whoa.
It was like an interrogation. It was like, yeah. She was like, I have something to show you. So that was that. And
it's one thing if you're doing drugs, but another, this is
know,
your life.
Right?
This is who you are.
I know, right? So the, ex-boyfriend, best friend's mother ends up talking to my parents and be like, hey, I have something to show you. So she sold them all the text message. Me talking about to another girl, telling Kevin that I was liking this girl, and I really was in. This was freshman year, by the way. And then Kevin also had another person. So in the midst of, it was like
he got thrown out too?
Yeah.
Oh.
I know, right? So his mother had found out. His mother had found out that her son was gay.
Jesus.
So it was like a double whammy, and I was like, dang,
How did you handle that?
Well, the day it happened, my dad had picked me up, and my dad was like, so who is so-and-so? And I'm like, whoa, how did you find out? Like, that was just something. And then they're like, no, Kevin's mother had invited us to lunch, and she showed us all the messages and stuff like that. And so I was just upset.
I imagine so.
I was upset. I felt I was invaded in my personal privacy, and it's
not
not
just
like
that. The closet is a safe place.
Exactly.
And being injected out without choosing yourself,
I mean, eventually I was going to tell them, but the fact that I was outed, and I was like,
that wasn't their place.
No, it wasn't. And my parents, obviously, because my dad. It's funny because I have an older half sister, and she's a lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
And so my dad wasn't as concerned as my mother, but he was still, like, obviously on the ball game, like, give me your phone, yada, 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 you're grounded, yada, yada. And I'm like, oh, hell no. I'm not going to be treated as if I'm the bad kid. There was a rebellion in me, like a bad turbulence, because there was nothing wrong. I wasn't smoking, I wasn't having sex with anybody, I wasn't doing drugs. I was just finding out who I was, and bad stuff went further. And it wasn't literally until I would say my ending of sophomore year, beginning junior year, my younger brother, he came out to my parents. I know, right?